Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. I made a video here where I was asking the question after the Fury-Usyk fight of whether Tyson Fury really believed that he won that fight by 3 rounds. Right, I asked the question of whether Frank Warren really believed that Tyson Fury won the fight by 3 rounds. I believe the emerging consensus, and consensuses sometimes take a little while to form, is that Alexander Usyk pulled away in the second half of the fight. Now, there's a moment after the fight where Fury is walking on his way to some meeting, and he runs into his friend Ben Davison, fellow trainer, right? And he yells at Ben, right? Who do you think won the fight? And Davison, who is a hardcore boxing type, tells Tyson Fury that he thought Tyson Fury edged the fight. The look on Fury's face, Fury's following comments tell me firmly that Tyson Fury truly believed that he won that fight by 3 rounds. Right? Now, just understand, minimum of 3 rounds. Right? Fury, in my opinion, misread the energy in the room. Right? Understand, Fury's a big man. I believe he didn't understand that it looked like Usyk was fainting twice as fast as Fury was. Right? It looked like Usyk was landing a lot of jabs to the body. It looked like Fury could not pin Usyk up against the ropes. Usyk, the smaller man, the much smaller man. Let's remember, Tyson Fury is listed at 6'9". The much smaller man was never in danger in the fight of being knocked down. Right? There's never a 20-second period in the fight where you thought, oh, Fury's loading up here. Right? He has Usyk involuntarily on his back foot. In fact, you got the opposite feeling, that Fury was unable to stop Usyk from moving where he wanted to go. So I believe what you have here is a real retirement. A frustrated champion who feels that he got jobbed in the first fight. Let's remember his post-fight comment then, where he alluded to the fact that Usyk was Ukrainian and tried to suggest that the fact that Ukraine had been invaded had made Usyk the public favorite. That they gave the fight to Usyk really as compensation, war reparations in a sense, for being a class guy, keeping his chin up, boldly continuing on in his career, despite the fact that his country was under siege. Right now, that's after the first fight. Fury does make some adjustments here. Usyk is very reliant on straight lefts, both fights. Right? Very reliant on straight lefts. Fury was on his front foot a little bit more this fight. Fury didn't try to clown like he did the first fight. But I think Fury just missed the visual. Right? He's in the ring. He makes some technical adjustments. Maybe he thought that was enough. Maybe he didn't realize that the benefit of the doubt goes to the champ, and he was not the champ entering the fight. So he was looking at a huge payday. A big fight for British boxing against Anthony Joshua. right? Joshua wants that fight sooner rather than later. Joshua has said time is of the essence, right? That's the fight Joshua wants. And let's be clear here. Let me say it again. In my opinion, Joshua is the cash cow of the heavyweight division. So understand, Tyson Fury was looking at a huge payday. But I believe Tyson Fury is having a crisis of self-impression. You know, I believe he's a little bit shocked at the lack of gratitude that people have for him, the lack of consideration, right? He truly believes that he beat a smaller man twice and got treated like someone who wasn't the lineal, hadn't been unbeaten going into the two fights, right? He's feeling dissed right now. Now, let me tell you how I believe it plays out. I understand I believe it's 7 kids. Don't want him to continue fighting, right? His wife wants him at home. They have money. Not only that, Fury has suffered from severe depression in the past. No one wants to see dad or husband feeling blue and down. Right? The mood swings of being a professional boxer, going to camp, getting cut in camp, that first fight delayed. Then, of course, all the training for the second fight. Didn't see his wife for weeks. Right? Is ornery in interviews. I believe his family thinks, hey, Dad, you've had a great run of it. Right? You've been heavyweight champ. Many people, let me raise my hand, believe you're a Hall of Famer. What's the point in continuing? Right? So let me tell you what I think happens next. I don't think he fights Anthony Joshua. I don't think he fights anybody for 18 months. Right? Understand the problems he faces. He sees himself as the champion. In fact, he sees himself as a ripped-off champion. He beats a guy twice in his mind, and they gave the guy his belt. Right? That's how he sees the world. And so, understand, he has no moral authority, none, to fight Usyk a third time. This is not the Deontay Wilder situation where Fury in the first fight got a draw. Right? So, of course, boxing fans were thinking, hey, we want to see this again. There's unfinished business here. Well, he hasn't gotten a draw against Usyk. Right? Usyk fought him twice. Usyk officially beat him twice. Whatever you think about the first fight, the biggest moment either fighter had in that first fight was Usyk roughing up Fury in the 9th round. Right? That's the biggest round of either of the two fights. Fury has no commensurate moment. I thought he looked great early in the first fight. But understand, he's systematically outboxing Usyk. He wasn't hurting Usyk, having Usyk stagger around the ring, having the ref get in the way. Right? There's none of that. So, Usyk is still the champion. You saw Daniel Dubois, who has a share of the belt, hop in the ring. Right? Call out Usyk. Because of Dubois' performance against Anthony Joshua, we now view Dubois differently. When Dubois dropped Usyk, when they fought, right? And I understand, many of you feel that was a low blow. I get it. But at the time, not many people thought Dubois could actually win that fight. Well, now we've seen Dubois beat a former heavyweight champion. A guy who has a big punch. Right? He's beaten Anthony Joshua in AJ's house, Wembley. Right? And so now there's a feeling, since Dubois not only beat Joshua, he beat Philippe Ergovic, a guy I hear call the heir apparent. Right? The sun will rise again. My view. Right? Because of what Dubois has done, I believe there's more outcry if Dubois beats Joe Parker. I believe the boxing hardcore here, the boxing cognoscente, has sniffed out a highly competitive fight there. But understand, if Dubois beats Parker, Dubois has more moral authority because he knocked down Usyk for an Usyk fight than Fury has right now, where Usyk went 24 rounds with Fury and was never close to getting knocked down. Right? I believe Tyson Fury knows that. Let me point out, Joe Parker is actually a friend of Tyson Fury's. Right? That would be like two fraternity brothers fighting each other. If Joe Parker beats Daniel Dubois, I'm not sure if Usyk is in a rush to fight Joe Parker. This is almost like Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis. Right? You got some friends in the sport. They sparred together. They've helped each other at different times on their way up. Now that they've made it with all the other people to fight, why would they want to lose their friendship? You get older. Good friends are hard to find. You got a good buddy, particularly one who's lived your lifestyle, right? You heavyweight champ. Joe Parker has been a heavyweight champ. Right? You've dealt with the press, including the British press. Joe Parker has dealt with the New Zealand press. Right? You know, there was a time there, New Zealand's a tough place, where people thought Junior Fa was better than Joe Parker. Right? Parker's dealt with a lot of backlash. Just understand, my understanding is that Joe Parker's good friends with Tyson Fury. I don't think Fury's in a rush to fight Joe Parker. If Joe Parker beats Daniel Dubois, right, understand, Parker would have an interesting time against Alexander Usyk because Parker's an athlete. Parker has foot speed, right? And Parker wouldn't have to worry about the level of punching power he's been dealing with, right? Zhilei Zhang, Deontay Wilder. Right, so I believe Fury, who's a smart guy, he's a boxing savant. He's kind of like David Benavidez. Let me give a nod to another fighter. I believe Fury understands, hey, the roads are closed off for me in terms of getting the title back, at least for the next year. Right? At least for the next year. Not only that, I have my partner, right? I have my woman here and I have my kids, and they're complaining that I'm not home enough. Right? I froze my wife out for weeks before this Usyk rematch. Understand, too, the dysfunction goes even further than that. Right? There's a split in his corner. Some family members believe that he needs to get back on the balls of his feet, move around the ring, snap a jab. Fury is going with Sugar Hill Stewart, who believes that the best way to win is by stoppage. Right? It's to go for KOs. There's a split in his corner. In other words, there's dysfunction in different parts of the guy's life. We know the guy has had a drug problem in the past. We know the guy has had mental health concerns in the past. We know the guy has had weight problems in the past. This is the troubled artist, isn't it? So I get that they're throwing dozens of millions of pounds at him to fight Anthony Joshua. I don't believe this is a negotiating move. I believe at this point it's the gold ring or it's nothing for Tyson Fury. He feels he was dissed here. He needs to have public opinion reset. Right now, the public, folks, is in love with Alexander Usyk. I have the moment, I have the video in my favorites folder here where Tyson Fury yells at Ben Davison, "Who do you think won the fight?" Right? I believe that's heartfelt from a fighter who's deluding himself a little bit. Now, in that same video, the guy interviewing Davison gets Davison to continue talking. And Davison starts talking about how Usyk, who Davison believes Fury just edged, having been undisputed at cruiser, having been undisputed at heavy, having gone through Anthony Joshua twice, Tyson Fury twice, Davison on camera says, yeah, it's clear that this guy's name belongs, my words not his, on the very short list of the best fighters in history. And we all understand that boxing is like baseball. That matters, right? Baseball fans start talking about Mays, Aaron, Ruth, Koufax, right? As if they lived when Koufax pitched. Understand, you talk to boxing people. My dad and I would talk about boxing, then I'd hear about Joe Louis. And I would want to say, hey, Dad, I'm 11 years old. I don't, Joe is well before my time, right? But you understand, you have measuring sticks in boxing. Usyk right now is a measuring stick. To the guy who thinks he beat Usyk twice, that's just too much to take. I don't think Fury's head's in the right place. I think Fury has done the math. He understands that Anthony Joshua just got blown out by Daniel Dubois. Any money that he gets from a Joshua fight, if he loses, is going to be the most expensive money he's ever received, right? Because then people are going to say, hey, if Dubois knocked down Joshua several times, and if Joshua was able to beat you after Usyk, are you a Hall of Famer? Right? I don't believe Fury wants that dialogue. For the record, Usyk has said that he feels Fury beats Joshua. I think Fury doesn't feel that Joshua fight is worth the risk right now to his reputation. Quite frankly, he needs a break. Quite frankly, he feels he's been overlooked. Jerry Seinfeld put it best. He said there's a time where a performer is killing it in front of the crowd, and if that performer stays on the stage a little bit too long, the crowd turns on him, even though that performer is giving the crowd more value for their money. I believe that's the mindset Tyson Fury has right now. So I've seen Tyson Fury's personality before, right? Ray Leonard famously retired in the 1980s, right? Ray was loved. I mean, I'm telling you, Floyd Mayweather has no idea what it's like to have been as loved by the public as Ray Leonard, right? We forget the era, right? Ray Leonard was loved. Ray retired. He even held a press conference that Marvin Hagler attended, and he announced he was not coming back. Then, of course, he comes back because this is boxing, right? Boxing's like those horror movies where Freddy Krueger just keeps coming back, right? Ray comes back. He fights Marvin Hagler. You think it's a one-off. No, it wasn't a one-off. Ray ends up fighting, we forget the late 80s, Ray ends up fighting Thomas Hearns again. By the way, on my scorecard, he lost that fight. Right? He fights Roberto Duran again. People forget that. He fights Donnie Lalonde. He fights Hector Macho Camacho. He fights terrible Terry Norris. Right? I believe, like Ray Leonard, Tyson Fury needs boxing. Right? This is the guy who's going to say, okay, that's it. but he's going to hang around the gym. He's going to stay in shape. He's going to follow the sport. He's going to know who the fighters are. Right now, things are unsettled. If he's a wise man, he should know to himself privately that he would have a tough time with Zhili Zhang. I think he knows he would have a tough time with Martin Bakole. Understand, there's only one man who Bakole's trainer thinks could beat Bakole, and that's Tyson Fury. And Bakole, of course, has sparred with both Fury and Alexander Usyk. Right? If you believe Bakole, he broke Daniel Dubois' nose twice. Right? So just understand, right now I believe the water is too deep for Tyson Fury. I believe Fury privately feels he beat Usyk by 3 rounds. I think he also feels that a Joe Parker would give Usyk all he could handle, that a Zhili Zhang, fellow southpaw like Usyk, might beat him. Understand how deep boxing is. You have a guy Usyk fought already who could give Usyk a very tough fight. He already has beaten Martin Bakole. His name is Michael Hunter. And of course, there's the big question in the room. Moses Atama flatly believes, according to some recent interviews, that he's the best heavyweight on the planet. We can laugh. We can say, oh, you got to be kidding. Kid, you're too young and stuff like that. How old was Tyson? How old was Ali when they were heavyweight champion? Right? Just food for thought. So I'm expecting Usyk to be out of the ring for 18 months. Understand what might happen during those 18 months. Anthony Joshua might retire. Right? Joshua has been the cash cow of boxing for years. Joshua is one of these vets, according to reputation, who actually talks to young fighters and who tells young fighters that being a professional fighter is like being in the army. That you have to devote a good solid 10 years of your life to the sport, minimum. Right? You can't be running the streets. You have to be running, you have to be, running to prepare for a fight. Right? I believe Joshua's been living a military life. Right? Now that he has been heavyweight champion multiple times, now that some younger guys are, now up at the top, and Joshua had, like Fury, a full 24 rounds against Usyk. In other words, Joshua had opportunities. Right? Joshua might mentally be ready to step aside. Let me say this too. Just like Fury might say, gee, I'm the King of England, right? With no offense to King Charles. I'm the King of England. Why do I want to fight Joshua here and possibly lose that part of my professional reputation? Right? Well, likewise, Joshua, who has Nigerian roots and who's been called out by Martin Bakole, who himself is from Africa, Joshua might think to himself, why do I want to fight Martin Bakole? My era has come and has passed. Some of the fighters in my era who rule the roost have recently lost. Fury, 2 losses. Deontay Wilder, loss. Right? In fact, 2 losses. Right? Joshua might feel that he's in a different generation boxing-wise than Martin Bakole. Right? If Joshua plans to retire to Africa, right, for tax purposes, we know how these retirements really are. Right, you're retired, you're a resident of Africa, but you're in London clubs, and you're at that Manchester United match. If Joshua just wants his place where he's living, right, just wants the recognition of what he's already done in the sport, he might not want to fight a Martin Bakole or a Zhili Zhang. Right, this might be his time to exit the stage. So 18 months, things are going to look very different than they look now. Maybe we get that Dubois rematch. Maybe this time when Dubois hits Usyk on the belt line, it's called a legal punch. Right? Maybe this time Dubois, after having beaten, right, an unbeaten Philippe Ergovic and Anthony Joshua. Maybe this version of Dubois, still in his 20s, but more experienced, will have the confidence to crash the pocket against Alexander Usyk. Right? If Usyk loses, that opens the door to a lot of boxing. Then, of course, just like many, myself included, are excited about the prospect of Vladimir Klitschko coming back. Many would be excited about the prospect of 6'9" Tyson Fury coming back. Right? The money will be there, whether he fights Anthony Joshua or whether he comes back in 18 months and fights whoever ends up with the belt. Right? The money will be there. It's not like the guy needs the money either. So count me among those who believes that, like Ray Leonard, who took off years in the 1980s, years, I'm expecting Fury to be out of the ring a minimum of 18 months. Why 18 months? Because he'd be out of the ring for a year. Then, of course, you would hear that, he signed to fight some guy with the crown or some promising person. And that fight would take several months to get pubbed, the camps organized, and to actually happen. Right? So I'm expecting Fury to be out of the ring for 18 months. I'll be disappointed if this is some head fake where, as Eddie Hearn is claiming, he just wants a few extra $1 million or £1 billion in order to commit to fighting Anthony Joshua. I think the wound here runs much deeper. I think he's looking around the room. It's one thing to get ripped off by the judges in your mind, but it's another, and this is the real painful part, to not have a public outcry that you've been ripped off. In other words, I'm ripped off in the ring. I'm thinking, wow, what are the papers going to write tomorrow about this fight? I'm expecting, robbery, theft. How is this scorecard possible? Instead, the headlines the next day were Usyk the Great, right? Where does Usyk rank on the all-time heavyweight list? People naming great heavyweights, right? How would Usyk do against Dempsey, Lewis, Lennox Lewis, Ali, right? Foreman. I believe that's the part that's devastated Fury. I think he's out for 18 months. Let me hear from you. Give us your thoughts. This is all speculation. None of us have to be accurate. Give us your theory in the comment section of this YouTube video. Understand, boxing is built on people with theories, people with scorecards, amateur psychology, etc. I look forward to reading your thoughts. Thanks for stopping by.